evening and welcome to another exciting show. And tonight we've got Robert, who's the former head of research, FOCOM head of research and development. So here we go. Excellent title there. We like that. So FOCOM head of research and development, and I'm banned Eric because I was banned from YouTube. So we've got to be really nice tonight. Mustn't say words like tit or bum, so we won't say anything like that. And we got to praise YouTube. And I do hope that I'm sure that Robert is ready here now to praise our gracious and dear leader. I'll just show you a picture of him. I think we know what's coming up. And we've got to be all various areas. Now, please, let's all praise our gracious, dear leader. Here he is, our leader. Here he is. You know, what a marvelous man he is. You haven't got a sick bag by any chance, have you? But
mine's full. I filled mine up as soon as I saw the picture. They could call him a Jabberwocky, couldn't they? Yeah.
Yes, the Jabberwocky.
If you remember the children's book, the Jabberwocky. Yeah. I've also been given a new title. I've been given a new ministerial brief. It's I've been moving me over to the nudge unit.
Nudge unit, nudging me
or
over
the nudge wink unit. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good idea. Nudge towards Rumble and or Odyssey.
But Odyssey, yeah, of course.
BitChute.
Why not all of them?
That's
right.
The bases. Well,
last
Thursday, whilst Andrew was on, I said, I'm doing a show with John Hamer and Shannon on Friday. And yes, we recorded the show. It all went off absolutely perfectly. And it needs to be edited because when you're on Zoom, you only get 40 minutes. Then you have to do another 40 minutes and then you sort of edit it together. And I said, it'll be on this weekend. This weekend, I was working hard and I didn't have a chance to do it. So I'm going to try and get my finger out and do it this weekend. And it's a naughty show about naughty things that you're not allowed to talk about on YouTube. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, quite.
Or was it Welcome to the Masquerade? So
yes. I mean, added to the litany of things that, the endless, exhaustive list of things that we're not allowed to say. I mean, it's there was I remember seeing a documentary on I think it was Chelsea Football Club, and there was one footballer that didn't like the fans swearing. I think it was Frank Leboeuf, great footballer, central defender, French chap, played for Chelsea in that great when they had all the French guys like Marcel Desailly go over. So this is a little bit of a side issue, but I'll be quick. They used to say he's here, he's there, he's every effing where, Frank Leboeuf. So he said, I don't like people swearing. So the football fans, being the inventive types they are with chants, they sang, they modified the lyrics to he's here, he's there, we're not allowed to swear, Frank Leboeuf, Frank Leboeuf.
I like that.
And I just thought, he was a great player, Frank Leboeuf. He was an excellent player. And so was Desailly as well. But I thought it was just an idea. But this is what we, these are the things that we're not allowed to say. I mean, but there you go. But sorry, on to you, Chris.
Well, thanks, Robert, because the way I'm placed at the moment is I'm learning to use this OBS software, which you see, I can go live on Odyssey or Rumble now if I wanted to. Well, not exactly right now because they'd say, where the bloody hell's he gone? But no, seriously, but you could only do one feed. So it'd only be me. I can't have guests on or a chat room. So you need this OBS software to have guests on and have a chat room. So this is what I'm learning. And I can't do it immediately. It's going to take me a week or two to do it. But as soon as I can stick the two-finger salute up at YouTube, I will, because what I'll do, I'll tell everybody where I'm going, and I'll have plenty of notices. And on YouTube, what I'll do is I'm going to carry on, as I say, on Mondays and Thursdays on YouTube. But then we'll probably do a very short live video and say, right, okay, join me in at 8 o'clock, such and such on Rumble or Odyssey. On YouTube, so that people know when they tune in where I've gone to, and then we can speak and say whatever we want without any problems of communism and that type of thing. So that's where I am at the moment. But at the and also tonight we was going to have Yorkshire Rose on, talking about her experiences for 20 years in a certain church, which I won't mention, just in case. And unfortunately, Yorkshire Rose has been a little bit ill recently, so we'll send some healing thoughts to Yorkshire Rose. She's in Canada. But I've decided to do a recorded one of that and put it on BitChute because it's too dangerous for um, it's far too dangerous for YouTube. And it'll be her and her friend coming on, and we haven't arranged a date yet when we're going to do the raw recording, and I will be putting it on. But all the naughty stuff will be on BitChute from now on, so you have to go to the BitChute channel, and I'm going to be we're going to be prim and proper for the next couple of weeks until I can go over to Rumble or Odyssey. I prefer Odyssey, but everybody's saying Rumble's best, so I'll go with the flow. So over to you, Robert. What do you think? I think Robert's supplying the guests and doing a very good job of bringing guests onto the show. So thanks,
Well,
Robert.
yes, I mean, but I'm running out of funds, so I might have to buy Robert a coffee. I might have to do that. I'm running out of bribery funds. But before we start, I'd like to send a quick message from Deb to everybody. I emailed Deb today. She emailed me very kindly. She's doing quite well, and she's well on the mend. So obviously, Ancient Ruby, Louise, Kat, all of you guys. She sends massive love and big love to you all. And she said she hopes to be back quite soon. But I keep a regular check on her. So she seems to be sort of bearing up now. And I think I wouldn't use the phrase over the hump or whatever else. I wouldn't use anything as cliched as that. But she seems to be, I wouldn't even say coming to the realization, because everybody handles grief in their own way, but she seems to be firming up a little bit more, in terms of the way she's feeling at the moment, which is really, her husband's been a tremendous help as well. So obviously you don't need somebody to lean on, but it bloody does help. So he's been a tower of strength for her. So she's sending love back to everybody and hoping to be back soon.
Bless her.
I wanted to actually start off with the actual
Okay. Sorry.
Now, in terms of the meat of tonight's sort of discussion, if you like, chinwag, whatever you want to call it, it's synchronicity. Now, synchronicity is often conflated with things like karma. It's often conflated with things like fate, and it really isn't. The dictionary definition is something that is possibly inevitable, but doesn't seem to make immediate sense. Now, there is a school of thought to think, well, to actually ask whether synchronicity exists or not, whether it is actually just karma in another form or fate in another form. And that's one of the things that I'd sort of like to have a little chat about tonight. There's a great tune by the wonderful band The Police, if anybody likes them, Walking on the Moon, all that kind of stuff, and Roxanne and all that kind of, and it's called Synchronicity. And we might do another show one day with Synchronicity and open with that, because it's a bit of a thunderous track. And I know that Chris likes his German metal, but this is heavier even than that. That is how hardcore this track is. But there you go.
I only got on about half an hour before we started. So a note from my parents, would that
Probably
be sufficient?
too late.
No, and lines?
Yes, maybe. Yes, precisely. And also I have my tailor coming across.
Excellent.
And I have my tailor coming across to fit you for a hair shirt as well.
Yes, that's an idea. And the other one is a quick rub down with a 1989 edition of the Exchange and Mart. Now, those of us of a certain age will remember
precisely,
Exchange and Mart, and crude people would call it the Strain and Fart. Because in the office where I work, somebody say, "Have you got a copy of the Strain and Fart?" That was before the internet. And I'll be straight. It's still going, but not in. I think it's online. But
Mm.
oh, the
Yeah, it's a
bargains
shame.
you got there. Do you remember used to be
Yeah,
able to buy
I
job
do.
screws and nuts and
Yeah,
dowels and
I do.
loads of stuff. It was brilliant. It was,
Well,
and
I mean, the 4.0 version of it online would be something like eBay or
yeah,
Gumtree or something like that. I don't know if they have Gumtree anywhere else but the South. I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure it's national. But
mm,
things like that, Craigslist as well, Craigslist,
yes,
as we call it in the proper speaking world. Um, that those sorts of things were derivatives of Exchange and Mart because
yeah,
Exchange and Mart started all of that off, which is quite rather interesting. But back to the topic of tonight, which is synchronicity. Um, there are I think everybody would pretty much agree with us that there are no coincidences really, that everything is pretty much pre-written, preordained perhaps. And that what we're going through, particularly at the moment with and all that kind of thing, what we're going through at the moment is it's basically been preordained. We could talk about our friends, the Screws, and what's his name, the people that it rhymes with ham salad with an AS on the end. So we've got those chaps warring over there and knocking nine bells out of each other. Basically, cousins, I might add, both Semitic cousins, if I might make that, and that's an actual fact. These are cousins. Literally, I mean, brothers fight, but cousins fight even worse. So they've been at it for quite a while. But that might be seen as inevitable and not synchronicity. So synchronicity might be you manifesting something for yourself, like a parking space, or let's say if you want to get a job, one particular job, and you're up for it, and you're really willing it to happen, and then you walk past a place that is actually connected with that workplace. I mean, that happened to me not so long ago in the job I hope to start very soon. That happened, and I was taken full circle 360 degrees back to the first place I ever lived in London when I first moved here. Some 30, well, I would say 30 years ago, but they still had powdered wigs and riding on horseback along Chiswick High Street. That's how long ago it was. So a long time ago. But there is that. I think we often conflate that with fate and all the rest of it. But synchronicity has its place because there are things we can't explain. There are occurrences that we can't explain. For instance, there must be a genetic or scientific fact to the amount of spider webs. Has everybody seen that lately? You go out in your car, you look on your wing mirror or your door handles, and it's just full of spider webs. Has anybody seen that? I mean, pipe up in the chat if you have. I'm pretty sure you have. But I had my little Ken Dodd tickling stick. You remember that, Chris? The little duster.
yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
had
I remember
that
that. Yeah, that
dusting
took
off.
right.
Yeah, just dusting off the cobwebs off of my car before I went to the farmer's market yesterday, and there were people blowing kisses at me. "I'll get you, love," with with my slippers and my feather duster, and I just thought, "Oh, how low have you sunk, Robert? I mean, really. I mean, you're always a bit delicious, but this is ridiculous." But there you go. But it's little things like that that synchronicity fits nicely in with, I think, because I can't explain it. I'm sure there's a genetic or scientific reason for that to happen. Maybe it's no coincidence. Maybe it was planned. Maybe they're part of the GMO modified mosquito campaign, sort of waged by our beloved leader, Bungalow Bill, out in Seattle. But we never know. But we never know. But I mean, that's my 10 cents worth as an opener.
That's fascinating because I've noticed an increase in spiders this year, and I'm not anti-spider because I know that lots of ladies are frightened of spiders, but my attitude is I prefer spiders to bloody flies because I don't like flies because they spread germs. And as far as I know, spiders are quite clean. And house spiders, if you put them outside, they're going to come back anyway. So what I find is I put a piece of toilet paper in my bath when it's empty, of course. Put it on the side. So when the house spider, goes down and has a drink, it can get out of the bath. And you know, it saves me putting them in a jam jar, putting them outside where they always run in again. And they keep was it silverfish and all kinds of nasty things in your house down, earwigs and all kinds. That's their prey. So really, they're keeping your house clean in a way. Spiders. I mean, I wouldn't go along with saying having spiders' webs all over the place, but really, you know, house spiders are no real trouble. They don't really spin that much of webs. But what I've actually found is that I've got a bike shed at the top of my garden, and for some unknown reason, I don't know whether they're interested in bike riding, but it's absolutely covered in spiders' webs, and it's being used regularly. So I don't know what's happened there. But anyway, shall we go into chat, Robert, and we'll have a quick shufty, see who's in chat. Oh, we got a real bumper load of people tonight. We've got Baby with a Laser. Give Deb my very best wishes and hope she feels stronger soon. Oh, I like to get that on as well, because grief is a very personal thing, you know. And we've got Stig in New Zealand. Morning, Stig. And hope New Zealand's nice.
Stiggy, my boy.
Yay! It's springtime
Stiggy.
in New Zealand, isn't it? That's nice. We've got Chris the gardener. Evening, chaps. Don't say anything. Keep this between yourselves. But he doesn't know it yet. But he's coming on Thursday. So shh! Don't tell him. Don't tell him, because you know we're going to drag him on, kicking and screaming. And then we got hello. It's warm outside. It's that time of the year. Merry Christmas. We got that Stephen Truth Seeker. Then we've got who else we got? We got Mark Anthony. Good evening, all. Hello, Mark Anthony. And let's have a look here. Now, this is a good suggestion. I like your suggestions. And hey, do you know something? Synchronicity. There's a spider that's just come down next to me. Hello. I wonder if you'll come on the screen. Isn't that weird? Hang on a minute. Let's see if I can get him on here. Let's have a look. No, he's run off now, because I was going to show him on the camera. But Stephen Truthseeker said, "Hey Eric, what about a show about the paranormal?" Good point. Make a note of it, and it should be okay for YouTube censorship. So thanks, mate. That's a bloody good suggestion. And yes, a paranormal. We'll probably get Wayne on for that. We haven't had Wayne on for a while, so yes, we'll probably get Wayne on. Now we got here, what's this? We used to sing that to Tommy Booth at Main Road in the 70s. Did you really? Oh, that was what we were talking about earlier. And I wasn't that kind.
Rest in peace, Francis Lee, as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry, rest in peace, Francis Lee, the very great Francis Lee. Sorry.
It's Main Road, sorry, Blues, that's it. And we got Cat Holly. Thumbs up for the show, please, folks. That's very kind. Thanks, Cat. That's very kind of you. It's much appreciated. And we got Stephen Truthseeker said, I went to Main Road in the late 80s. He won 4-0, I think. Ian Rush got 2. That's right. So that's interesting.
As he always did, pretty much. Great player.
And I actually noticed the top people in sports are generally very, very modest about it. Have you noticed that? There's no big deal, especially in boxing. You know, do you know Muhammad Ali, when he was off the stage, he was very modest and very quietly spoken. I reckon he wasn't it's just a show that he put. Yeah, but it's thanks to him that put boxing on the map, because people it was a minority interest before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got a good Muhammad Ali story for anybody that wants to listen to it.
Oh, yes, please, yes.
Muhammad Ali, God rest his soul, very, very kindly visited Birmingham twice, my hometown, when I was still living there. He opened the Birmingham Central Mosque, and he opened the Muhammad Ali Sports Centre in Handsworth. And it was literally like the Messiah landing. There's a place called Lee Bank Middleway, which is basically a long dual carriageway with a roundabout on either side. That was packed. There was said to have been over 1 million people there. And he did the call to prayer and everything and all the rest of it. And we were kind of crowded outside, and he looked at my mom and he touched the side of her face. He said, God, you remind me of my mother. And my mom almost collapsed into my arms. And my mum said, I said, what were his hands like, Mum? What were his hands like? He said his hands were so soft, but the outsides of his hands were like an eagle's talon. That was the business end, you know. So he obviously had calluses on his knuckles and everything, but apparently the insides of his hands were soft. They were like a bank manager or like an accountant, apparently, according to my mother. But that is my Muhammad Ali story.
I like
But
him
it was
a
a
lot.
privilege.
Oh, it
He
must
was
be.
he's a big old boy as well. He was about
Mhm.
6'4", round about there.
Really?
Big fella. Good looking
Mhm.
chap as well. Really good
Yeah.
looking guy. Fabulous looking bloke.
And
I
also,
mean, you know,
sorry, carry on, Robert. I didn't mean to talk across you, so carry on. Sorry.
just a fact, very charismatic. And if everybody remembers that there was no internet in those days, the only communications you had were radio, television, and basically other, you know, the primitive forms of media, the print media. And he became globally recognizable pre-internet. So can you imagine what it'd been like now? You can get any schmuck getting 400,000 followers on Instagram, and they become instantly recognizable. But this chap did it the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, there's no harder living to make than boxing. You know, they might say
Right.
marathon running or other endurance sports, but you know, when you're running a marathon, nobody's trying to knock 9 bells out of you, knock you and spark you out. So, and you're actually defending yourself against the guy whose intention is to knock you out. They're not scoring against you. It's not fencing. We're talking about the hardest way of making a living. Um,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
either that or being an honest politician. That's another very hard way of making a living. It's
Well,
impossible. But
well, that's it.
yeah, but mm,
What I liked about him, I mean, he refused to fight in Vietnam and stood by his principle, which his
yes.
credibility went up a lot with that. And he stood up
Mm,
to people calling him cowards and things like that. But to me,
mm,
that's bravery. That is a real man to stand
yeah.
up to that. And because he said something, he said, I don't hate anybody. I
Mm,
respect people. I don't want to kill anybody. And he said,
yeah.
when he goes into the a ring, his boxing ring, he's not there to kill anybody. He's there
No.
to play the game and play it fairly, and
Mm,
knock someone out, but not kill them. And
yeah.
I think he had very similar principles to Henry Cooper, because Henry Cooper
Yeah.
fought
Yeah.
against him, lost, but they were great
Yes.
pals.
Yeah.
They got on well.
Yeah.
But
Put
I
him on the
like a
seat of his
lot.
pants, didn't
Well, that's right,
he?
and
Mm,
I like. There's a
mm,
lot that Muhammad Ali said that I
mm,
agree with and I liked. And I, if you could have an imaginary dinner party and you can invite guests
mm.
along who are deceased or
Yeah.
alive, one of them would be
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali. I think he'd make a very interesting uh, talker and art speaker. And the other
Mm,
person, I better not say because I'll get into trouble with YouTube. But
mm. Oh, I
but
see. Has he got a little tiny mustache by any chance, that chap?
well, it's funny you should say that. Slap by his
Yes.
thigh.
Right.
No, not, and it's not
Yes.
Charlie
Yes.
Chaplin. So not Charlie
No,
Chaplin.
precisely not. No, precisely
No,
not.
funny
No.
that.
But
But do you think he was taken out? I think that illness he had was deliberately triggered.
oddly
I really.
enough, it's funny you should be talking about that because I was watching. I sometimes watch this chap called. He's a former rapper and he was with a rap band called the Ghetto Boys. So anybody who's into that rap, if Pandora's listening tonight, Pan might know. So they're rap guys from the 90s called the Ghetto Boys, and Willie D was one of the singers in it, and he has his own YouTube thing. He's got about 600,000 or 700,000 followers, but he covered that in one of his recent bits of content. He was actually saying that Alzheimer's was actually an excuse. It was a shield for what they were using, similar to Judith Baker Ferry, who was apparently helped develop the fast-acting cancer that killed one Jacob Rubinstein. If we all know what I mean, wink, wink. Yeah. Now, also killed David Ferry, apparently. Apparently. Now, she was a girl genius. So for all the girls in chat, girl power, I mean, she's still a genius. But we're talking about a girl at the age of 19 that's dealing with very complex things like cancerous growths and things like that, and experimenting off of her own bat. She was then brought into a program run by one of the alphabet agencies at Tulane University in Louisiana, in New Orleans. Interesting.
That's fascinating.
But in terms of that, and tying it back to the synchronicity, there could be, maybe it was preordained. Maybe they've got a hit list. Whoever they are, maybe they've got a hit list of people they want to take out. And the further you go up to the top, the further away from synchronicity you get, because it's not a bloody coincidence. It's actually ordained. Maybe that's it. Now, there is that, but it begs the question, Chris, why did it take so long? Why not do it earlier? My answer to that. Sorry, carry on, Chris.
I'm just saying, it is weird, isn't it? Why did it take so long? It was,
my answer to that. Sorry, Chris, go on.
It used to upset me to see this once very handsome man who was very highly intelligent being brought down, just sort of staring and looking. Oh, it's horrendous, and it broke my heart. It really did. It really upset me because to see a person gradually getting worse, it was a horrible. It's terrible. It really was, And,
but it's like that with a lot of other guys in contact sports. There was a guy who played the center for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a guy called Mike Wallace. I should spit when I say the Pittsburgh Steelers because I'm a Raiders fan. But he was a great center, and the center is the person that hikes the ball to the quarterback and actually protects him from getting blasted from the front. And then you've got the sort of right tackle and all the rest of it. But he was one of the first people to be diagnosed with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, and he was one of the central pillars of the start of the film, A Concussion with Will Smith, which was a good film, but Will Smith's Nigerian accent was as dodgy as all hell. He should have cast somebody else. But there you go. But he was very good in it. He was very good in it. And it's about a guy called Bennett. Yeah, about a doctor called Bennett Umala, who was not seconded. He worked at the Pittsburgh place where they do autopsies, coroner's office. So he worked at the coroner's office, and he came to work with his briefcase, his sandwiches, his little cup of his little Starbucks, and there was a crowd outside of the office, and he wanted to know why. And they said, "Don't you know who's in here? We had Mike Wallace brought in last night." Who's Mike Wallace? He didn't know. Obviously, he's from Nigeria. Doesn't know about American football. They told him who he was. He said, "Well, look, we want a really quick result, and we want you to do this respectfully and cleanly." And what happened is that he wanted to section the brain because he saw proteins in when he looked into his eyes, looked on his hands, his fingernails. He said, "These don't look regular. There are certain proteins that might be escaping here that I want to have a closer look at, for which I had to section the brain." They wouldn't sanction that, and they didn't want him to do it. So apparently the cost of doing that, the test for that, was about $900, maybe $1,000. He said, "I'll pay for it myself. I've got to get to the bottom of this." Then, Chris, he discovered the proteins that then became CTE, that were labeled CTE. And obviously, I don't want to ruin the story for anybody else that wants to watch the film, but it is a fascinating film. And there were all sorts of players that cropped up afterwards that started willing their brains to the CTE program. The NFL basically tried to block it. They tried everything from random dodgy phone calls to him being followed by private detectives to him being, they tried to blacken his name and actually character assassinate him. They bribed him. They offered him a plum job in Washington with about quintuple the salary, and he wouldn't take it. So it was, I think he ends up out in California working at a university there in the end, but he's a fascinating chap. He's even being usurped. I mean, the poster girl now, or the poster person for CTE is actually this blonde doctor. You know, she's about in her 50s, perfectly, completely and totally competent. Don't get me wrong, but she didn't. I don't think she had as many brickbats against her than Dr. O'Mara did, to be honest. But anyway, that's basically what happened to him. And anybody that suffers big head trauma, any contact sport, rugby, boxing, even to a certain extent, basketball and baseball, certainly American football. I mean, it's literally a heavy contact sport. A lot of people said, well, he didn't take many blows to the head. You don't need to. All you need to do is have your head jarred, because your brain is this little thing that's inside this case. And the case isn't smooth inside. The case has little fissures inside to hold the brain in place, which is why you've got the ripples inside. So when that dislodges, it cuts the brain tissue. And this is where you get issues. Well, partly where you get issues.
Really?
But anyway, coming back.
Sorry,
carry on. That's happened to me before as well. I've been knocked out a couple of times. When I had my collarbone broken down in Holborn, when I got involuntarily dismounted from my bicycle, I was knocked out by the inertia. I wasn't knocked out by the actual, and I spear tackled myself into the pavement. So I went head first into the pavement. But I was wearing a helmet, so it was not too bad. But some people might say not more sensing to me, but I doubt that. But I was completely knocked out, and the ambulance chap, he was brilliant, by the way. He gave me amazing drugs, Chris, and oxygen and gas and air. And he said, "How do you feel?" I said, "Same time next week." I want to come back. Well, I was that good.
That's right. I was knocked out for 10 minutes. I came off the bike, and I didn't have a helmet. No, and
yes, Jesus.
When I woke up, you know, some children found me, some school kids found me, and I was all sort of on the bike. Yeah. And what it was, I slipped over on some leaves in November.
Wow. Jesus.
And leaves are more slippery than ice. I went straight over.
Yes.
And knocked the bars, and I must have been out for a long time, about 10 minutes. When I came round, I was in sort of ecstasy. I felt all right. I wasn't in shock, and I walked back, and then about half an hour after I got home, the shock hit me.
Did you throw up by any chance?
No.
No, you didn't. No. Sometimes that's one of the things that happens once you've suffered head trauma. Oddly enough, but anyway, but circling back to the synchronicity side of things, because I was doing a bit of a Ronnie Corbett here and getting a bit sidetracked, but there are things that would have happened maybe to Muhammad Ali as a boxer, or any other boxer for that. It could be Jake LaMotta, it could be Sugar Ray Robinson, it could be Mayweather, it could be any of the great boxers we see around. For instance, you could say divine intervention plays a part. Now, we all know who Tyson Fury is. I trust we do. Now, he has suffers from really deep-seated mental health issues. And this was before it became fashionable. He's actually tried to commit suicide. He's driving along his Ferrari, trying to head for a motorway sleeper in his Ferrari at 180 miles an hour, trying to actually kill himself. And apparently he hit a stone. And I don't know if you've ever driven at any great speed, but if you hit the little things that you hit can throw you all over the place. And he actually straightened the car up. So maybe that was synchronicity. That was an unexplained phenomena that stopped him killing himself. And somebody actually was on Joe Rogan. This is about 5-6 years ago. And I think Joe Rogan may have missed it, but somebody sent in a message. Perhaps you were meant for higher things, Tyson. Perhaps you were meant to survive. You were clearly meant to survive. Now, maybe that's synchronicity playing a part there, or divine intervention. Maybe him upstairs, that chap. Maybe the guy that lives on the cloud with sandals and long hair and a beard. And I'm not talking about Herodotus Getfruit there, by the way, because his logo is like that, isn't it? His avatar. But maybe he's got a plan for all of us. Maybe that is true. And people that believe in God, whether it be an Islamic God, a screwish job, God, or
Whoever.
Catholic, or whatever it might be, maybe he does have a plan for us. He, it, she, the entity, whatever you want to call it, has a plan for everybody.
Oh yeah, some people think their
Maybe.
lives are mapped out, but what amazes
Yeah.
me, there are some incredible synchronicities that go on, and one of them happened to my father. And when he was first
I'm
conscripted
dying
into
to
the
hear this.
forces, this was in 1939. He hated the army. He didn't. He was not the type. He was a square peg in a round hole, but he had no choice because he was conscripted. What happened is that it was all mixture of people in the army. There was thieves. There was just a complete mixture. And he was about to go on parade. And this is after he'd only been in the army all a matter of a couple of weeks or months. And somebody had stolen his bayonet scabbard. So he had to go out on parade without a bayonet scabbard. And he was standing there, and the sergeant major came along and gave him one hell of a dressing down. You and all this, that, and the other. And he told him to stand back after they've all been dismissed. And then the sergeant major said, "Well, you know what to do, don't you?" He said, "Sorry." He said, "You know what to do?" He said, he virtually told my father to um, steal another one. And my dad said, "I'm sorry, I'm not a thief. I was honest when I came into the army, and I intend to continue to be honest," in words like that. So he actually went along to the where they deal out, you know, what you could, I can't remember what it's called now, but there was stores where you could actually get equipment from, equipment stores. And he said, I'd
Quartermaster.
like quartermaster, that's the word, thanks, Robert. And they said, and they were shocked that my dad had offered to pay for this bayonet scabbard because he had one stolen. They'd never actually had anybody do that, because what they would do, the army way, is to steal off of somebody else. And the bloke, the quartermaster, I think it's a quartermaster sergeant, said, "Here, you can have this on me." He said, "You have it free." I said, "Oh, thank you," and thought no more about it. But what he didn't realise, that event went down in his records. Okay, didn't realise it. And also, they discovered that he was a non-smoker and a non-drinker. Not exactly the type of the army, is it? That's why I think that
No.
he got into the intelligence a little bit later on. Anyway, that's another story. He went through the siege of Malta, and during the siege of Malta, they wanted someone to. It was a cushy little job to actually run a new bar for all the combined services, because all the services were combined during the siege of Malta, Army, Navy, and Air Force. And guess who was picked for it? It was my dad, because they looked down his records, and who was best for running a bar? A non-smoker and a non-drinker who was extremely honest. And he made a success of it. And of course, he could do accountancy. So he kept all the books, did it in metric, and they were quite surprised. And that went down on his records as well. And of course, later on in Sicily, where the intelligence section had such a high casualty rate, they've been literally wiped out. That got him into the intelligence, where yes, it was dangerous, but it wasn't actually hand-to-hand killing as such, because you had to observe, you had to go ahead of the lines and lay markers out, and you had to watch. So it was front line, yes, and it was still extremely dangerous, and had one of the highest casualty rates, but you weren't actually killing, which is something my father was revolted by, because he was a pacifist. He didn't believe in killing, but of course, being a conscript, you had no choice in the matter. So you think about it, that situation where he had his bayonet scabbard stolen, at the time he thought, oh no, what a terrible thing to happen. But it did him good, because 3 steps along, synchronicity, I think, saved his life. Because if he'd have carried on in the front line, he wouldn't have survived. And a little thing to put in,
That's
a country which I can't say on air, starting with P and ending with E,
Okay.
and
Yes.
was there's a lot of problems going on there now.
Mm.
There was a siege where lots of men were dying of malnutrition, and my father was skin and bones. All they had was 6 like dog biscuits a day to survive on that, to do a full military thing on that, and they were absolutely starving. But some chocolate they managed to get through. I don't know if it was by a submarine or anything, but they managed to get some chocolate from this place beginning with P in the Middle East and ending with E, was a lot of trouble at the moment, uh, that they got through, and they had a couple of chunks of that, and of course that kept him alive. And it's thanks to that country that my dad survived and I'm alive now. So I've always had a soft spot for that Middle Eastern country. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
A country beginning with P and ending with E, which has shrunk rapidly since a certain other country was set up. I think that's all I'll say
Yes.
about the subject. I
No.
mean, I keep back from there because the old claxons are starting to warm up in Egypt. So I've got a soft spot
Yeah.
because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here.
Interesting story. Talking about bayonets, I was watching something on the first Marines in Japan, in the Pacific campaign in Peleliu and places like Guadalcanal and places like that. Now, apparently, some of the Marines would throw their bayonets away because they never wanted to fix bayonets against the Japanese, who obviously have a history in armed and unarmed combat and are very good at it. Kendo being one of the things, sword play, samurai sword play. So they didn't want to face these people. So they thought, look, if it's down to the last round, I'm going to make sure I hit somebody with it and then run, basically, because these guys are so good. They're so good with blades, whether they be they call the katana and the samurai, which is a big one. I think the katana is the middle one, and then they've got the one that they commit seppuku with. But apparently, you're not allowed to kill people. You're only allowed to kill yourself with that. I mean, when I was over in Tokyo, this lady that took us for the tour of the Imperial War Museum mentioned that. She said it's a faux pas to use that to draw anybody's blood but your own. It's a little bit like a Sikh. A Sikh has a little dagger in him. It's concealed under his clothes. You know, the guys with the turbans. Mm-hmm. Now, you're only allowed to pull that out if you're going to draw blood. And it's for self-defense only. So it's interesting, but I mean, it ties in with your in a way with your father's story about the bayonet and missing the bayonet. But it's very interesting though, and it's obviously we will be speaking to the great DW. The initials will become obvious in the next couple of weeks. One would hope once Chris and I get to have a proper chat with him and maybe a pre-show talk. But this chap is equally as fascinating as allegedly Dave. Equally. He's got an amazing backstory.
And also,
amazing backstory.
Wayne will be back on soon. Sorry, mate, I haven't contacted you recently because
no, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. I might give him a ring after the show actually and say hi. But
yeah, because I haven't forgotten him. It's just I'll be straight with you. I've been tied up with this.
No, that's fine. Of course, yeah.
Which is
You've been rewriting the Magna Carta, haven't you?
I've been rewriting the Magna Carta, and strange enough, talk about bayonets and that. Well, with the intelligence, they were taught unarmed combat. And my dad used to say, we used to get a broomstick. He'd say, "Come at me with that broomstick," and even when he was in his 70s, I'd end up on the floor with his arm over like that.
Yeah.
And he was trained. And what it is, he said, if someone comes to you with a bayonet, what you do is twist and then pull it sideways and along. So you don't stop the person, you carry it on, which is the thing that we must do with what the powers that be are doing to us. We don't stop them. We help them along and then push them into the wall.
You use their weight like judo or any other martial art. You use their weight and the power of your opponent. But my mother used to have a neat trick with a broomstick, and it was sort of to do with self-defense, but it was more home economics. She said, come at me with that broom, and I'd pick the broom, and she goes, now sweep the bloody floor. That's what she'd say. So that's what she would do. I mean,
Yeah, sorry.
yes, please do. Yeah, because we do neglect that somewhat. But
Yeah,
let's go into chat and have a little look at what we've got.
have a quick look. So we got here. Stephen Truthseeker said, "Did you see what Kevin Keegan said about women footballers?" I think he's laugh out loud. I don't know. I don't think.
Was that recently, Stephen?
Don't know. Then we've got here, synchronicity exists. I have to deal with it on a daily basis. This is Baby with a Laser. Now that is very interesting. Please tell us more. Stephen Truthseeker said, I've had
You need to expand on that.
I'm in my life. So in the past, I'm now going through Mandela effects. Yes, Mandela effects. That is where they thought that he was dead when he wasn't, because they thought that it was a funeral when he was being released from jail. I think that was the Mandela effect. Now it says here, Baby with a Laser. Yes, Stephen. Most people feel the same, but just put it down to a sign of the times and move on. Personally, I see it as a part of an agenda against men. That's interesting.
Interesting.
Now, I think I'm living on a different timeline than the majority. That's Stephen Truthseeker. You know, I often think that. Oh, we got Lou Jones. Hello, Lou. Pleased to speak to you. Here we go.
Hello,
and we've
Lou.
got pleased to speak to everybody. In fact, Bill Gates. Yes. Our gracious leader. Sorry, Hereditors get. We've got to be all fluffy bunny and tap dancing hamsters tonight. So, our gracious dear leader. Now we got here. Evening all. This is Louise Wilcox. We've got spiders' webs everywhere, and they are really fine, silky, and sticky. I've seen lots of
I've
spiders
noticed that as well.
with big bums. Well, I've noticed their bums so much, but hang on, where's the spider gone? Who was round here? He's buggered off somewhere. Cheeky sod. Oh, wait, come and watch the show. And also, we've got more bees now than had all summer. I haven't noticed bees. I know flew flies around, but loads of spiders. But the strange thing is, when I go into my bike shed, they don't go anywhere near my bikes. They're all around the edges.
Interesting.
The bike's free of webs. They don't go across on the, perhaps it's the human on them. I touch the bike.
Could it be something to do with the lubricants that you used in the bike, Chris? You know, the oil you have on the bike.
That's a good point. Well, it could be the filter.
Just spitballing, just a thought. Yeah.
Well, spiders are very clean, you see, and when you're on the bike, you get all the filth and shit thrown over you and all over the bike. And I haven't cleaned them recently, so that might be the reason that they're saying, "Ew, Felicity," because they're posh spiders. Ew, I don't like that bike. It's filthy. Ugh. Now we got here. Mark Andrew says, "I get the spiders' webs on my wing mirrors. I do every morning.
Me too.
Me too. The next morning, they're back again. I don't know what it is about spiders' webs and wing mirrors. And when you're driving along, they go behind the mirror, don't they? Do you find that? It's a bit windy for them. But, yes. Now it says here, spiders don't poop on your dinner, but fluss does. Fluss do. Well, there's a load of spider poop, it looks like poop, in my bike shed, that misses my bikes, funny enough. Yeah, on the floor. Then we got spiders are great. I allow them as long as they are discreet. And that's a tarantula, of course. Well, I don't know, But now it says here, live and let live. Caroline Murphy. Hello, I've finally made a live chat. Hello, Caroline.
Hello, Caroline.
Yes. Now let's have a look down here. Now we're going over to the spiders. Oh, here we are. People, Baby with the Laser says, people won't be so supportive of spiders when agenda, kicks in. You'll all either catch them and get them in a wok or flatten them for extra Christmas dinner. I tell you, that's true. We're going to be eating bugs and crap soon, aren't we?
Chris, there's a very interesting one a little bit further down from Chris the Gardener. He mentioned Malta being a dodgy place.
Now let's have a look.
It is a little bit further down. Watch it, Chris, by the way. Let's I saw it down there, but and I did reply to it. And obviously you've got the Maltese, the Maltese cross, the Knights of Malta, and all of the satanic things that are connected with that.
Mm.
You
But
know,
also,
I mean that would. Yeah.
sorry, excuse me, chiming, but just after
Mm.
World War II, I think in the 50s, it was the Maltese that owned up a lot of strip club joints in London, believe it or not.
Yes, yeah, they had a big gangster
Yeah, they had a
showing,
big,
didn't they? Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And they
and
sort of all
the Craze
appeared.
and Jack Spot booted them out, didn't they? In the end,
Yeah, yeah. So that's it.
because it was Jack Spot and then the Craze booted Jack Spot out.
Yeah,
Jack Spot was the Al Capone of London at one point, and then the Craze basically they literally went more extreme than he did. You've got a
yeah,
parallel with that, with the extremities of violence now, with the gangs. You've got obviously the black gangs, and you've got gangs from places like Somalia. You've got gangs from people like Kosovo, and apparently even the young kids that are thugs in London and that have these postcode gangs, even they tread very carefully around people like the Albanians, the Kosovans, and the Sudanese, because they actually come from a war-torn place, and they've seen people with the the necklaces put around their heads, where they put a flaming tire around your head and burn you to death around your neck. Now they've
yeah,
seen things like that, and apparently a lot of these things largely go unreported in inner city England,
yeah,
Manchester, London, certain parts of Birmingham as well, where you have some really gruesome goings on that get suppressed by the police because they don't want to spark anything. Now, it could be, I can proffer another sort of theory here by saying that maybe similar to Castro emptying the prisons out, um, into Florida. Obviously, right at the beginning of the Scarface movie, you have that reference. Maybe you could actually get the alphabet agencies, the security services, thinking, well, what better way for us to keep the public in check than weaponizing them against one another? So what they'll do is they'll put an element, whether it might be ethnic, and again, is this synchronicity or is this planned? Is it karma? Is it something in their grand plan? And what they're doing is then they introduce other people into the mix. They Turkish, Albanian, Iraqi, Iranian, and basically these are. It could be argued it's the empire coming to bite England back in the backside, basically. But you had a similar situation in pre-Algerian independence in France, where you had frankly, a lot of trouble with Algerians and then Moroccans and Tunisians and people from the French protectorates and the French colonies were basically kicking off. So I think what the French did is they focused it on the Algerians, and they started getting Tunisians and Moroccans weaponized against Algerians to actually quell
oh yeah,
that a little bit.
yeah.
Mm. Interesting though, but I mean,
It's always the case. You keep the natives fighting against each other, so they're not looking at what you're doing. That's it.
divide and
It's
rule.
divide and rule.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah.
a lot of the third world have emptied their prisons and have emptied their shit over to
Oh yeah.
us.
Onto
I'm
the Western
positive
world. You're quite right. You're
because
quite right. Yeah,
what
yeah.
happens is that people see that and they class everybody as the same. And it's a bit like,
Precisely.
it's a bit like many years ago when I was young, I went up north. They're really nice people up north, but there's one particular area in Derbyshire that I went to, and when they heard my southern accent, it was bloody southerner bastards, you know. I thought, well, you know, they don't even know me,
That's
but
not
just
North,
because
Chris. That's the Midlands,
that's the
Derbyshire.
Midlands. But also in Wales. Now,
I thought you meant Liverpool or maybe even Yorkshire or Lancashire when you were talking about the North. But go
oh,
on.
North
It's all
Wales.
relative, I guess, because I'm
Well,
from
that's what I
North
mean.
London and then
Yeah,
Birmingham.
I
So
mean,
yeah. Mm.
in North Wales, I went there many years ago, and
Mm.
I've got a Welsh
Nice
surname.
part of the world.
Well, it's not Welsh; it's the English spelling. My surname. It's not
Yes.
the Welsh spelling.
Yeah.
But I went there, and I went to these. You know, you go to these sort of little villages and that. I went to the post office. And it's long before the internet. And when they heard
Mm.
my accent, they all started speaking in Welsh. Or bloody English, you know. Which I thought was very rude, you know. But I mean, You know,
Yeah.
I'm just an ordinary bloke standing there.
Mm.
And then when
Mm.
I can't remember the full details, but they saw my surname, they thought, oh, Welsh. So we started speaking English
Well, he's
again.
one of us. He is.
What bloody ridiculous. I mean, there's not a trace of
Yeah.
Welsh in my accent. There's no real, well,
Yeah.
you see, my lot come from the
Yeah.
border where it was English one side and it kept moving from Wales to England, Wales to England. That's why my surname is spelt with the
You've
English.
frozen a bit there, Chris.
Oh, blimey, am I okay now?
Just to say
All
that
right.
the Welsh spelling, I believe, of
Yeah,
Palace is with a Y that replaces the I in Chris's name.
correct.
But
And
I don't know
an
what's
I.
happened to Chris, folks. So, Chris,
Yeah,
you frozen, just dropped out there. But you were talking
hang on.
about your people being from the border.
Yes, my lot are from the border, and the border was England in one moment, Wales the next, and it was back again. So you know, it depends. I might be a bit Welsh somewhere, but it is the English spelling, and of course the other side is German. So I'm German Welsh, maybe.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
as you can hear by my Welsh non-Welsh accent, you know.
Acton David. Yeah.
Yeah, Ashton, yes. But
Yeah.
we got this is an interesting one. Baby with eyes up, just waiting for the dam to break, Ruby. Same as everyone else who have eyes. Seeing loads of shite going on around me. A lot of people burying their heads in the sand. That's correct. Yes, yes. But
Yes.
synchronicity, I'm interested in people's synchronicity stories because some things that
Me
happen.
too.
I was talking to John Hamer, and he said in his life, and it's best to get it straight from him, but this is sort of second hand. He said things that he thought were extremely bad that's happened to him have sometimes in the long run turned out to be a good advantage to him. It's weird how you have these different changes. Like, for example, Glenn Miller. Now, the Glenn Miller Orchestra, um, he had a unique sound. And what happened, I believe one of the trumpeters cut his lip or something and he couldn't go on stage at the last moment. And by accident, he discovered this unique sound because he was a trumpeter less or something happened like that.
Mm.
Sometimes these things that happen, I mean, for example, look at post-it notes. That is a perfect example of synchronicity. I don't know. Do you know the story of post-it notes? And it was
Vaguely, yeah, vaguely. But please refresh your memory.
the chap worked for 3M, wanted to find a glue that stuck paper that was better than the ordinary glues. And he made this, I think he's a chemist or something. He made this glue up and it was a bit crappy. And he was a churchgoer and he went to church and he used this glue to paste on the back of the paper and stick it in different pages of the Bible so he could remember it. So when he flicked the pages back on the Bible, they didn't all sort of fly everywhere. And people at the church he went to thought, well, I mean, that's a good idea. And they wanted this paper as well. And that's how 3M post-it notes took off from a failure because he thought it was a failure and it turned out to be a massive success. So it was glue that didn't stick permanently, but was just enough to hold it in place. And I use post-it notes a lot. So
Yes,
that's
yeah.
another failure.
Would that explain why did 3M buy the patent? Is that what it is? Because I can only ever see 3M post-it notes. I mean, whenever I've worked in offices, whenever you get people buying stationery, they buy 3M post-it notes. Now, maybe they bought the patent.
I don't know because I know he worked for 3M because 3M allow their
Right, that really.
staff time every week to do research and development, and that's why they
I
are
think there's a quid pro quo there, Chris.
Sorry.
I think there's a quid pro quo.
Oh yes, research and development.
Work for the glory of the company. Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
We have the means of production, so but you're producing. I think there's a lot of that to do with it. You know, there's a lot of that to do with it.
Well, we got Fockham head of research and development here tonight, so you should know, Robert.
Well, yes, precisely. I am sworn to secrecy, and
yes,
they are moving
right.
my portfolio across to the nudge unit or the behavioral insights unit. So I'll be keeping an eye on some of the more unruly elements in chat. Ruby, you know who you are, and the people like that. So we'll be doing things like that. But yes, but I would.
It was a Tesco carrier bag, but shh, don't tell him.
Yes, yes. But oddly enough, quick story about Tesco carrier bags. I'm a West Bromwich Albion fan for my sins. And when we go to Wolverhampton Wanderers, because the Tesco bag is very reminiscent of the West Bromwich Albion shirt, being blue and white stripes, we get those and leave those on the seats when we leave. So it's like a calling card. And to my knowledge, we don't do that when we play at Stoke or Villa or Blues or anybody else, or Leicester or Derby or any of the other people in the Midlands that we have a rivalry with, just Wolverhampton Wanderers, as far as I know. Interesting story. Bit of trivia though. There you go.
It's a bit like, what is it, up in Scotland, they have Rangers and Celtic, and it's like World War
Oh,
III.
yeah.
Because
Oh
one's
my
Catholic,
God, yeah.
one's Protestant, and it's
Yeah,
like, so,
yeah.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But what can't they say? We are human.
Yes, precisely. Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
Baby with a laser. Sadly, many are sweetie, and it is hard living in this world full of lies and corruption. Yet we can only apply aid if in front of us. Stay strong, darling, and you will get through anything. I think this is to
Oh yeah, it's a conversation between Ruby and the with
terrorists.
Razor. But yeah. But it's interesting though that watch your Wayne, how you doing?
Oh, here he is. Hello, it's Wayne. By the way, Wayne, I
Yeah.
haven't told you yet, but you're coming on the show soon. But sorry, I haven't been in touch. It's because I'm a rude son. No, I've been really busy. Sorry, mate. Nothing personal. And it says, now, actually, I should have been in touch with Wayne, but I haven't. So hope you accept my apology. Hi, Chris, Robert. With respect, your dad's story fits the definition of serendipity rather than synchronicity. The former is good fortune coming from something seemingly bad. You're correct. Yes, that is right. Yes.
Well, there's no reason. There's no reason a synchronicity type event can't have beneficial effects. There's no reason it can't be. It doesn't have to be sinister. So it could be. I get what Wayne's saying. I get that, but I think right at the beginning I mentioned us conflating things, and it's not a fault. It's just the way the human mind works. You know, there's karma, and they're very, very similar things. There's karma. There's natural justice, there's the natural order of things, there's serendipity, and they're all very similar to to synchronicity and the effects of synchronicity as well. But it would be interesting to hear about, I mean, people like Stephen Truthseeker. I mean, I would love to sort of hear his and I think Baby with a Laser, they said that they experience synchronicity every day. I'd be interested in hearing a few anecdotes of those.
Well, another synchronicity thing is, there's a record years ago called Big Noise in from Winnetka. Now, it's a really weird record made by two Americans during World War II. And if you go onto YouTube, just tap in Big Noise in from Winnetka. It's an unusual record. And the way it was started, it was two blokes having a cup of coffee, and this bloke started whistling a tune. Another one started tapping on the table, and they got this record together, and it's the most unusual one. So after the show, go to YouTube, tap in Big Noise in from Winnetka, and you'll see an amazing act. And they got that unique record. They don't know where it comes from. This bloke started whistling. This other fella started tapping on the table. And eventually a fella was on the drums and a fella was on the bass. That's all I was saying.
Right, okay. Interesting.
It's about 3 minutes. It's a really interesting one. And it's that chap called, I think it's the Bobcats did it. And Big Noise in. Yeah. And when you hear it, it is like nothing else you could ever hear. It's quite catchy, actually. And it's going, you know, but what a weird name. Now it says here what we got here. Right, we got here. This is Hatchy. I've just got in. Me and Buds is here, Chris. My grandmother and father had more contraband going on with tea and made as much as the so-called naughty boys of today's standards in my IMA. Hail King Chunky. Yes. So what was that contraband during World War II or something? I don't know. Now, it's true what you say here, Robert, about the Maltese cross. There's some yeah, it's true. It is true. It is
Very
something.
much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't our former monarch, didn't she wear a Maltese? In fact, don't they all wear Maltese crosses on their tunics? I think Wayne would be able to chime into that, and I think there are certain Masonic elements as well. And I'd be interested to get Wayne's input and Stephen Truthseeker as well, because they seem to have some shared experiences. Those two, Wayne and Steve. So
Get them together,
I'd be
yeah.
interested to get their input on that. But there's certainly elements of this symbology in these emblems that crop up time and time and time and time again. And why Malta? Why Malta? Why not Gibraltar? I mean, Gibraltar has a few dodgy bits and pieces happening to it as well. But why not? Why not some Sardinia, for instance?
That's right. But look
why
at
not
the ancient,
some other island, Elba?
That's right.
Why not Madagascar?
It is weird because it does have very, very ancient ruins there of a civilization that go back really way, way back before Stonehenge, in fact. But everybody I know that's been to Malta said that they've come back in a strange mood. There's something odd about the place because it's two islands, isn't it? It's Malta and Gozo. There's people in Malta that live in Gozo, but it's in the middle of nowhere. Because my dad, when he was sent to Malta, he thought, "Oh, goody, I'll get out of all the action going to Malta." No, he thought he'd fight the war. Malta.
It was the most bombed place on earth at one point, wasn't it? For a long time. In fact, statistically, it had more ordnance dropped on it than about, I think, 14 countries put together during the whole war. Apparently, something stupid like that. But it they strafed the bejesus out of it. It really did.
The stories he's told about it is incredible. He wrote a book about it. But the thing is, details below in the description area. But what I was going to say is there's another piece of synchronicity that happened there, because they used to have DAs, which are delayed action bombs, dropped by IBM, and the bomb landed and it didn't go off. And please excuse me if I haven't got this quite right, because you'd have to read the book, so I'm doing this from memory. And it landed near a school, and the bomb disposal people came in and they very carefully undid the nose cone and took it to bits, and where the detonator could be, there was a little note, and when they looked at the note, it just read, "This is the best I can do, a Czechoslovakian girl."
Yes, I was listening back to one of the old shows, and you did actually. I remember you mentioning that story, because they worked in the army and the ordnance factories, didn't they? Yeah, they were the slave labor that actually put these things together.
That's right. And to think about it, I hope she had a long and happy life after the war, but she never knew the amount of people that she saved. Just think about it. I mean, she saved.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Lots of lives by not putting the detonator in the bomb. That was very brave of her.
But does that make it synchronicity, because she intended not to arm the bomb properly? So she intended a good outcome. So is that her paying it forward in some way? Did somebody do something really kind for her? Did maybe one of the German officers or the German soldiers that were guarding her give her some meat or something like that for her diet, or a bit of milk or something, a ration, and maybe she thought she'd pay it forward that way? It's just interesting.
And also, if one of those children would have got killed in that school, but some of those children may have gone on to become great scientists. Who knows? The world would have been denied a great scientist or whatever. We just don't know. So there's a sort of, it's a quite an amazing things of a type of events. Things like the weather, or the plane where it dropped its bomb. It could have dropped in the sea. We would have never have known that, or it could have dropped anywhere.
Precisely,
it's quite amazing. We got an interesting one here from Cat Holly. Hello, Cat. Went to Malta a few years back. Got chatted up by a mercenary. Barking place. Well, I'll tell you something.
Right,
There
okay.
was no
Yeah.
no animals on Malta during World War Two. The locals had eaten them all. Seriously, apart
Jesus.
from
Yeah.
mules.
Shit.
Mules were left alive because, and they were skin and
Mm,
bone, because that was the
mm,
only transport. Even the army had. The army had to use mules because there was no petrol, and that all the petrol they
mm,
had to be used or fuel to keep the aircraft in the sky. And there's only three
mm,
aircraft: Faith, Hope, and Charity. And that was the Gloucester
mm.
Gladiators. So there was nothing else. But this is an interesting one. Chris the Gardener. There was a female journalist who was investigating corruption on Malta who was taken out. I can't remember her name, but it wasn't that long ago. Yes, that's interesting.
Oh, I seem to remember that, Chris, as well. I seem to remember something vaguely in the back of my memory. It was very much like the Veronica Guerin story, where she was bumped off by the Irish mafia, basically. I think it's very similar, but I think she was taken out, unless I miss my guess, and it is a big guess, by the security services. Sort
Hmm.
of maybe, one beginning with an M and ending with a six, or beginning with an S and ending with an S, maybe. So years ago, I remember when Stella Rimington, she became head of, MI. Um, she actually said, "We don't kill people. That's what we use the the other alphabet agencies for. That's
Yeah.
what we use the army to do that."
Could it be
And
something to do
has
with
anybody
moss?
noticed?
Could it be
Pardon
something
me?
to do with moss? Could it be something to do with moss, which might be a bit sad? You never know.
Yes.
Yes, you
You
never
never
know.
know. You never know.
Moss is a
But
bit sad sometimes.
hmm, has everybody seen the story in the paper where the armed police of the Met are downing tools because apparently one of their number is being charged with murder whilst on duty. So what they're doing is they're redrawing their services, and the inference is now that they're going to get elements of the armed forces to conduct armed policing duties.
Wow, that's
Now,
dangerous.
yes,
Oh,
now we were already being softened up for that, if everybody remembers. I don't know how it is for everybody else in the rest of the country, but in Birmingham in particular, I think Liverpool as well, they had people from the armed forces, from the medical corps, the Army Medical Corps, the Navy Medical Corps, actually trying to
I
persuade people to have it,
can see
trying to
it.
persuade people, going door to door as well.
Yes, I remember
Yes.
that.
Now
Yeah.
there's Selly Oak Hospital up in Birmingham as well, which is oddly enough where I was born, and oddly it was Circle of Life where my mother passed away as well. But
Oh, bless her.
they have an army unit there for soldiers that were coming back from Iraq, Iran, and actually convalescing and sort of repairing themselves, which is it's weird. I mean, there's a little bit of a Masonic element there if Wayne's for Wayne, because it's just down the road from Bourneville where the Cadburys had one of their factories, and you've got Bourneville Village, which has a very dark element to it as well. And
Really?
that
I
was
didn't
one
know.
of the first, yeah, very dark, because they were Quakers as well, the Cadburys.
Hmm.
So Wayne might be able to fill you in with their link, the Quakers, to they were the first people in the New World as well. So they took a lot of their practices with them. So obviously the Masons, and there's a synergy between the Masons and the Quakers. I'm not
I don't know.
clued up enough to do it, but there's definitely an air and an aura around there. So as you go from the centre of Birmingham, you head along the Bristol Road. You go Birmingham. The university is on the right. The campus is on the right, and then on the left you've got Selly Oak Hospital, and then further up on the left you've got Bourneville, and it's now Cadbury World. It's called, but we used to just call it the Broken Chocolate Room. We used to call it because it was
Was it?
where, seriously, yeah, the Broken Chocolate Room. So all the young kids from the schools around the area, and if your teachers were connected, they used to get you they used to take you up at lunchtime after you did a sports day up at the Lickey Hills or something, and they drive you back down in one of these the double-decker bus, and they'd park you outside of there, and you could have as much chocolate as you wanted. So all the broken bits of chocolate and whatever else,
Oh,
you used to
lovely.
just stuff yourself. And
Oh,
because they were, the Cadbury family were very altruistic. I mean, my
yeah,
mother, God rest her soul, was Methodist, and we went to a Sunday school when we were kids. We did scripture readings and things like that, and we used to sing in a choir. And every once in a while, Dorothy Cadbury, who was one of the William Cadbury's daughters or granddaughters, or daughters or granddaughters. Anyway, she came, and we thought she was the queen because she would always pull up in a chauffeur-driven Daimler or Rolls Royce with
yeah.
long opera gloves. She smelled gorgeous as well. Fur, fur hat, big fur coat, fox fur, fox stoles and things like that, and the pearls and things like that. Just beautifully attired, absolutely. And
Oh,
the chap used to open a door for her, and she used to glide out of this thing. And we used to sing for her. So she became a patron of our Sunday school. So twice a year she would have an open house. I mean, it was a mansion. So in the grounds of her mansion, she would count up how many children there were and buy a tiny little gift for everybody. But she'd
oh,
hide them in
no.
the trees, and you used to have to go on a treasure hunt. I was just remember her as being a lovely lady, a sweet lady, just really, really nice
Oh,
older lady. I mean, she must have been, I was probably about 5 or 6 then. So she must have been about 60, 70 maybe. But she was really, really lovely to us. Always lovely. And
that
I
is
just remember that twice a year. We have one in the autumn and a summer party. And we'd have lemonade and things like that and sandwiches. And it was great, you know. It was just one of those things. But going back to the Cadbury World thing and the Cadbury thing, but there is that dark element there. And also the campus at Birmingham University kind of, there's a vibe to it. It's not like Aston University down the road or Warwick across the way. It's not quite like that. But if you understand that we're quite close to Malvern in Worcestershire, so
mm,
Malvern is just up the road. So obviously that is where the dreaded Alistair Crowley went. He went to Malvern College,
really.
and Chris Whitty, and James Delingpole, and Jeremy Paxman, plus many, many others. But it's got a very dark element to it. And
Yeah.
that is where the factory owners used to send their sons to school. They would send them to Malvern or Rugby because they were too good for King Edward Grammar School, which is a bloody good school, by the way. And I
Mm,
don't think we have a haberdashers up in Birmingham, but you'd have King Edward Grammar School. And then the really smart kids would graduate from there on a scholarship and go to Rugby or Malvern College, one of the two. So that obviously then they become filthy capitalist swine, and the rest is history after that. So, but it's interesting now. But there is that dark link, and it's always, and I could never put my thumb on it when I was a kid, but it always had a vibe to it, a real odd
I know
vibe
what
to
you
it,
mean. You could
very
pick something up.
strange.
But what was that? The Dark Satanic Mills? Who was sung that? What was it? That's in
But
Jerusalem,
Dark
isn't it?
Satanic Mills, I think we've refers to the coal mines. It's there's a song by Sting called "We Work the Black Seam Together."
Yes.
It's a great song. It's a very dour song. These dark
Mm.
satanic mills have made redundant all our mining skills. Just brilliant, you know. Just
It's,
very, very, very evocative. But he's a great songwriter, though, I have to say. Give
oh
him
yes,
that.
he is. I mean, I don't like
Hmm.
him. He is clever, but I don't like him as a person as much. I don't. I think he used to be a
He's
bit.
he's a little bit up his own backside. He is, to be honest with
Yes,
you,
that's
and
what
I
I mean.
think that's what comes of somebody, somebody having sycophants around them and no oversight. Nobody telling them, "Oh, you're a bloody twat, you are," you're an idiot. Um, it, this is an interesting story talking about that. I'll circle back down into synchronicity and the darkness. But every Roman emperor would have a servant or an equerry holding a laurel crown above his head when he was in public, when he was on his chariot going around, whispering Euronia man into his ear.
Yes.
The only
Yes.
people that didn't do it were Commodus, unless I'm misremembering, Commodus and Julius Caesar, both of whom wanted to become kings in a republic, which is why they ended up having a sticky end.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
but everything has to have an oversight. Now, the reason we're in the mess that we are now is because it's a little bit like the police investigating their own corruption, let's say, for instance,
Correct.
or KPMG screwing up somebody's tax forms and investigating their own things. They won't let HMRC do it because the HMRC people want that big fat contract when they leave HMRC and go and work for big accountancy firms. So what they'll do is they'll help them kick it into the long grass. I'm sure it's the same in architecture. If somebody balls is up something, Grenfell Towers, for instance, that's another case in point. Who's to answer for that? Where was the oversight? Do
Well,
you see?
everybody
So
passes the
I
buck.
think
That's the real fact.
absolutely,
A good civil
absolutely,
servant is seen to be doing, but doesn't exactly do anything. That's the usual thing,
absolutely.
and that
They
is
kick the can
it's
down the
all
road.
buck passing all the time. And
Absolutely. You're quite
you
right.
know,
You're
I
quite
mean, for
right.
example, this what I'm doing here. This is sort of architecture and
Mm,
that. I mean,
yeah.
these sort of some of the drawings and whatever. And this I'm getting on. I can't say too much about it, but the real
Mm,
fact of it is that developers will try and get away with anything. And again, I won't go too deeply into it, but there's lots of regulations with the local authorities, and with the local authorities, again, they want their desk cleaned, so it's buck passing. Nobody takes overall responsibility, and nobody makes a decision.
mm,
So when you're dealing
no.
with a local authority, you're dealing with little, shall we say, little pyramids and little empires all the time. You know.
Right.
But
Right.
the funny thing is, you're talking about Quakers. Now, near where
Mm,
I live, they're in Ware, and if you're doing your tourist bit and you're in Ware,
mm.
I should actually get some money for this, shouldn't I? Commission for this. Now, actually, it's a place called Scott's Grotto, and it's really
Right.
interesting. It's
Okay.
privately owned. It's not
Mm,
touristy. There's no postcards or anything like that. And it's ordinary. When I went there about 20 years ago, it was an ordinary woman that her husband bought a house, and Scott's Grotto came with it, I think. And it's a little what they called folly that they used to make in the 18th century and then also the 19th
yes.
century. And it was a Quaker because they weren't allowed to believe in government or anything like that. And they wanted to do something to help and employ local people. So they had this folly made where they dug a big hole and they lined it with cement or concrete and then put shells around it. And the woman told us that it's marvelous because even in the hot summer, I think it was 76, it was the same temperature all the year round. So you go down there in midwinter, it's the same temperature, and you go down there in midsummer, it's the same temperature. And it was a fascinating place because it was just a sort of like a room that you went in, then you went through a tunnel into another room, and it was all shells on it. And it was so that people, when they came out of London to visit these Quakers in Hertfordshire, it was like they were very very rich. They could show them this folly thing. So Scott's Grotto, and I don't think they charged anything, but I think you give a few bob, a few quid to them after you've been round there. So and it's non-touristy and it's really nice atmosphere. So that was 20 years ago.
Apparently,
Mm.
yeah. Apparently, because I've just had a little look on Schmuckipedia, and it's actually it's been declared a Grade One listed building, and it
Really?
now belongs. Yeah, it was acquired by East Hertfordshire District Council in 1974, restored in 1991 by the Ware Society. Now, the Ware Society that strikes me as very much a foundation or some sort, because
It
it's the same
does.
place as we have our stand in the park, the Finchley one. We have it a place called Stephen's House. I've told you about this before, haven't we? Where
Yes,
the
but
chap called
Milligan keen on the place,
that's it.
wasn't he?
Well, it's called Stephen's House because it was actually owned by a chap called Inky Stevens, who pioneered permanent ink, apparently,
Hmm.
or indelible ink, or maybe invisible ink. I can't remember which one, but he actually left that in his family's trust to the people of Finchley, and it's actually it's called the Stevens. I think it's the Stevens House Trust, And obviously Spike Milligan was lived locally, and it was one of his favorite places to go and have a walk. And there's a really good statue of him sitting on a bench. So as you go into the park itself, you go through the cafeteria and into the park. You on the right hand side, you'll see where the gardens begin and all the fountains and whatever else. You'll see the life size statue of Spike Milligan sitting down, with his cap on.
Brilliant. But
Yeah.
with the Scots Grotto,
Yeah.
I've just had a little glance at it, and yes, it's manned by volunteers, because the woman, she lived
Right.
around the corner, and she came round and showed us round there, and then we went into our back garden, and apparently it was made by a chap called Scott in 1760, so it's a few years
Right.
old.
It's interesting.
It's
I'd
well
like to have a
done.
look at that. Actually.
It really is nice. You got
Yeah.
plenty of parking, and it's not touristy. You haven't got cars or anything like that. And she just I went there. She just personally showed me around, and it's really, really interesting.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and there's a word on the wall, frog. She's just about to see it made out of the shells, and apparently the shells were from the ballast of ships when they came back from far off places. So you had shells from all around the world there,
Right.
which is quite interesting.
Apparently, there's a piece of the Berlin Wall that was dismantled as well.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think went there before the Berlin Wall was dismantled. Was it? Might have been. I mean, 20 years ago. 1990s, I think I went there. So
interesting. Very interesting, though. Very quirky. I love things like that. But Chris, we got back into chat because I've seen something.
Because you phone them up.
I've seen something from something from Wayne in there. It's really rather interesting.
You'll be there, meet you there at 2:00 or something, and you go along there, and someone's waiting there. They just take you around, and it's really nice. What I like about it, it's none of this handout. We want £20 or anything like that. It's just pay a few bob when you leave if you feel like it. That's what I like. It's just nice, But, the other one is, now we got here Robert Fame talking about Malta. To misquote Somerset Morn, a sunny place for shady people. Oh.
He's a fellow Somerset Morn brother then. Good. I love Somerset Morn.
And we've got here Ancient Ruby. Those people you speak of, Robert, have come here. This is these Somalians and that, to fight all governed by our own corrupt leaders. All men under 40, yes, are being trained up as our new army because ours are and will be away and they won't. Well, I think it's both a possibility that they're being trained up.
I think it's possible. I think it's possible.
It is possible.
I think it's possible. I think they're more disruptors than anything. I think they're more the wild card than a fifth columnist. I don't think really you can organize them in that sense, unless they're all Manchurian candidates, which I wouldn't put past the powers that shouldn't be. But I think it's probably more to disrupt things, to throw chaos in there,
and also create trouble between groups as well, because they love to put you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Notice when we were kids, Robert, you never heard the word community used. I never heard it used at all. They'd say this community. Then all of a sudden, after the Berlin Wall come down, they'd say it's this community. You're part of that community. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. Communist, and
communard.
And they want to put you that's right, into a little pigeonhole. So you're from the Birmingham community, are you? That's what they'd say. Or, it's putting you into little. Because then you think Birmingham, we're at the Bull Ring, yes, and you've got Jasper Carrot, and and all that sort of.
Tony Hancock.
Yes. Minis. No, they weren't built in Birmingham, weren't they? No, it wasn't the Mini that was built there.
No, I think they were built someplace else. Minis were actually.
No, that's Cowley in Oxfordshire, wasn't it? Mini.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
there was a car that was famous from Birmingham that was built there because it was.
Probably the Austin Princess, probably.
No, it's Dunlop, wasn't it? And Raleigh Bikes.
Fort Dunlop, it's still there. Fort Dunlop is just up by the Villa ground as you come in on the M6. We had obviously there's Coventry just up the road with the Jaguar Works, and the Range Rover Works up in sort of Solihull as you exit Birmingham, just opposite Birmingham Airport. Obviously, you had the Rover Works, which ironically is just up the road from the Cadbury's factory. That's where the old Rover Works were. Yeah, it was on the Bristol Road. Yeah.
Cadbury's chocolate was good until now they take it by an American company, and I have to admit, it's shit now. It used to
it's
be
not
delicious.
good. It isn't good.
Yeah, it gives you acidity. Horrible.
Yeah.
Bloody awful stuff. And the only thing I quite like now is Sushard chocolate. But
Sushard, Sushard.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Now
that's what they put in it, actually.
Yeah, well, that's right. Baby with a laser. Essentially, I was going to say, I go to a market stall where this bloke gets bankrupt stock and all kinds of stuff like that. And he gets chocolate destined for real Swiss chocolate made in Switzerland. And he sells a bar for something like 25 pence or 50 pence, where it normally be about quadruple the price. And sometimes it's crappy chocolate, but sometimes you get some real stuff there. It really is for dirt cheap. You know, you got to watch it. But I had some recently that has all Middle Eastern writing on it, and it just says genuine Swiss chocolate. And you look on the back, it says made in Switzerland. So, you know.
Jesus.
Yeah. It says baby with a laser. It says the Welsh Anglo-Saxon meaning strangers, or I'm a stranger. The Welsh borders once stretched to Scotland and most of the Midlands. Bloody Nora, it might be related. You never know. Midlands and all. Oh boy, oh.
Yes. Yeah, precisely. Yeah, there's a lot of lot of nibbling going on the borders.
Well, I think it's hello, isn't it? Is it good morning or say yucky dar?
I think it's yucky dar is okay, isn't it? Yucky dar is okay. I think it's okay when you say something's okay. Yucky dar. Oh, you okay? Are you?
We got here. What's this? I've had a book delivered today. It's called Okay, Here We Go. I'm not sure I can read this full out.
Yes.
Folks, check it out. Love from Buds and myself. Okay, you understand why I don't read it out, because remember, I'm on the naughty boy list of YouTube, so I've got to be really careful. So thanks, mate, for sending that. People can read it on air. But thanks a lot. I hope you've forgiven me, but you know, I've got to be so careful now. You know. Now that's interesting. Is it? And this is interesting about yes, it was definitely the one who exposed either Panama Papers or one or the other, and it was a car explosion. Yeah, that's interesting.
Really? Jesus. Yeah. Kat, can you remember her name? Pop it in the chat if you can, sweetheart. If you can remember the lady's name. I'd love to have a little read about that. Yeah.
That's interesting. Natural justice is coming to all. They are lying to the people. Well, truth doesn't require, as I said the other week, truth doesn't require censorship. Only lies do. Because truth is pure.
Truth is its own defense.
Yes. Now this is interesting. Synchronicity, this is Sci-Hop, is vibration attracting similar vibration, just like when a guitar in the same room can cause another to hum. I didn't know that. The same note without touching it. Now that is interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting.
Now we got,
he's right.
We've
got about the guitars, isn't it? She's about.
Ricardo
Alejandro.
Juno.
No, Alejandro.
Yes. Alejandro. The funny thing is that Leicester City Football Club won the Premier in 2016 League Cup and FA Cup. Was that nothing at all cup? The FA, sorry. And then we were the unlucky ones that were the first. We were the first city to be locked down in the. Yes, interesting. That's interesting, isn't it?
Were they the first city to be locked down? Leicester.
Now, this is another one. Dan MC. Sympathetic resonance, the tuning fork experiment.
I was reading about that the other day, Dan, actually, about the tuning forks. I think it was somebody, maybe it was Jenny Lynn, actually, on another podcast. She was speaking about buying. No, it wasn't Jenny Lynn. It was somebody else on one of the sheep farm things where they were talking about this lady had bought some tuning forks. Now, one of the things on my list of things for my new home is to buy a piano, a proper acoustic. I've already got an electric grand piano, but I wanted acoustic piano, and I'm actually not going to have it tuned to concert pitch. I'm going to have it tuned to. There's another resonance that's actually more sonorous, and it's actually more in tune with the human body. Now, the concert pitch is A440. But there's another one which is 332, I think it's called, or E332. Well, and you can buy tuning forks. So if you've got a violin, cello, bass, whatever it might be, you can actually tune it to that. So you've got a harmonic. The string is a certain length, and you ping it in the center, and you get a harmonic, like a ding, a note like that. You tune that note to the actual harmonic that comes off of the tuning fork. So it's really interesting. I wouldn't mind having the piano tuned to the more friendly pitch, the more resonant pitch. And I mean, all the music I love is all the music we all love is actually played in concert pitch. It doesn't matter whether it's Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, Miles Davis, Steely Dan, Led Zeppelin. It doesn't matter who it is. You know, even those old thrashy, crashy German Herberts that you listen to, that you and Deb like, they all tune to concert pitch. It'd be interesting to sound how things would be if you released records with the 332 frequency instead, as opposed to the 440 thing. And I think earlier on somebody was talking about the resonances and one guitar vibrating, triggering a vibration in another. I think that's what we all are as people. We're all operating in this chat here and on this broadcast, if you like, or this content on relatively the same frequency. Might not agree, but what we say and the comments that come up in the comment chime with at least 5, maybe 6 or 7 other people in that. So it's interesting. So the resonances and the frequencies don't have to come through. They don't have to come through the voice necessarily, or even the written word. It can just come through the vibration of one's body. Really
I agree
interesting.
In voices, because when you think about it, we all resonate our voices at certain pitches and things.
Oh yeah.
I've often spoken. We all have spoken to people that speak the same language, but on a completely bloody different wavelength. They could be on the planet Zob, all I care, because they are on such a different wavelength. You just can't make head nor tail of them. And this is what I know. Going back to my pet subject, which is psychopaths. This is why I think for society, or for humanity to go forward, is to look on psychopaths that harm humans. They don't all harm humans, and the ones that don't harm humans, well, they're okay. I'm talking about the, shall we say, atrocious leaders and those type of people.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I look on them like crocodiles. Doesn't matter what race or religion they are. They're crocodiles. Now, a crocodile has a right to live on this earth, but not with us, because they are predators. They will eat us. If you had a crocodile in a room, it'll eat you. So no. So my feeling is the most humane thing we can do is separate them on an island with all the infrastructure there, so they don't starve or anything like that, and respect that they are different. As Dr. Hare, the leading authority on psychopaths, has come close to saying, they're a different breed of human. Because they've done scans of their inside their brains and that, and the frontal lobe is completely different to a normal human being's. Now, the way I think, I often laugh about and joke about lynching and things like that. That's all in humour. In reality, no, we can't do that. And I sound like a wet liberal at the moment, but my feeling is that look on them as like crocodiles. Yes, they have a right to live on this earth, even if they killed people, because if do you kill a crocodile if it's killed someone? Not really, because it's doing what it naturally is programmed to do. These psychopaths are doing what they're naturally programmed to do. We just separate them from us, keep them out of harm's way, make sure they're fit, but keep them on an island so they become an autonomous on their own. They can grow their own food, deal with. They will probably wipe themselves out. I don't know. I don't really care. But I think that's the most humane thing we can do. But how do we do that without starting a witch hunt? I don't know. But we've got to do it. We've got to find a way, because there are some scientists that are psychopaths. There's some surgeons that are psychopaths, but they don't harm humans. That's the thing. They don't give a shit, but they don't harm humans. But it's the ones that harm humans that we've got to deal with. And this, I think Norway may have got quite close to it with their prison system, where you've got sociopaths that can be cured, but a psychopath can't be cured because they are a different breed. And it doesn't matter what nationality they are. You go anywhere in the world, there is a percentage of psychopaths, and some races have a higher percentage than other races. But it doesn't mean to say they're all psychopaths. It's just saying they have a higher rate. Why? We don't know. There's certain theories of why. But I think that if we look on them like crocodiles, where yes, they've got a right to live. Yes, we keep them out of our bloody way, because that would be the most humane thing we could do. And people are saying, bloody wet liberal. Yeah, I know, you're giving to it. But no, seriously, put them on an island again. Because what would punish them is like punishing a crocodile. Crocodile doesn't know any different. Psychopath doesn't know any different. That's what because they're programmed to be predators. That's it, But
Chris, the reason they exist. Now, do you think it's that there has to be a balance of good and evil? To put it down to simple terms, there has to be a balance of good and evil, light and dark. Yeah. If we don't have that, we won't really realize how good the good is. Now, you've got a point. That's just one. That's one thing I just wanted to throw in there. I mean, people like Stephen Truthseeker and Wayne and other people that have had experiences with these offshoots, should we say, these secular and sect-like movements. I'm wondering wanting to find out if what they saw in Wayne when they tried to recruit him, and maybe Stephen, because I think Stephen came from a household that was driven by that energy. What they saw in these people, I mean, I think Stephen's, unless I'm misremembering, I think Stephen's experience was slightly different because he was brought up in it, whereas Wayne was actually they literally tried to drag him into their orbit. And maybe Wayne was looking for answers. Maybe he was experimenting with God and the Bible and other religions and whatever else. And then people like that literally become they put out a clear signal that they are seeking something and they are open to new ideas. And then the recruiters, if whoever they might be, whether it's the honey traps on those really good-looking girls on Tottenham Court Road or whatever it might be, or the really, really good-looking black girls in the evangelist churches in Birmingham, where, oh my God, some of them are gorgeous. And you think to yourself, are you coming to church? No, I wasn't thinking, oh, well, I'll be there. Oh, I might go. And a lot of guys get trapped like that. And it's really strange, Chris. I don't know what it's like in other churches, but the churches that I have experience of, the sort of black sanctified churches, the Baptist churches, the other black churches in and around sort of England, in America as well, by the way, there's an amazing proliferation of single mothers in these churches.
Weird, isn't it?
Whether they're coming to wash their souls of sin or whatever else, bit bloody late. But the thing about it is that they are there as honey traps, and some of these girls are absolutely beautiful. And you think, I know guys that have been trapped by this as well. They've been hooked, and maybe they attempted. Maybe Wayne was saved from that. Maybe synchronicity saved him
Yeah.
to go and pursue another path, a path that was more beneficial to more people. Because the guy's got a massive brain. I mean, so most of the people in here, I mean, there's a hell of a the average IQ. I'd love to measure the average IQ in chat and see how high it is. I'm
really
sure it's
proud of
pretty
them.
damn bloody high.
Yeah.
Me too. I mean, they're a great cracking bunch. But my point is that I would be interested to find out from Stephen and Wayne in particular, and anybody else who's been almost sucked into that orbit, whether they believe that these things have to exist in order to balance things, and whether there is a certain type of people that they won't accept, or if you're on the border, they will drag you in and think, okay, we can convert this person, this lady, this man. That'd be interesting to find out. Maybe that's a subject for another show, but I think it's really interesting. I'd love to find that out.
I think Miles, he was, Dr. Fleetwood. He went to America, and
Right.
it was a tourist thing to go around this church, and he had one of the most gorgeous women ever try to tempt him in as
God,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a honey trap. It's a honey trap, isn't it? Yeah.
Join me and have a look around the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember. Yeah. I remember. I think it was Ancient Ruby and Louise. I was talking about the succubus. Maybe that is a form of succubus, but not to actually drain your soul, but maybe to bring you to God. Maybe if that's the only way they can get to you, if that's the only message you'll hear, maybe they're put there for that reason. Maybe.
It could.
Interesting.
It is interesting, but I think Wayne did not get involved for a reason.
No. Yeah.
There's definitely a reason, and that chap died for a reason. So he
wasn't just up the road from me. I think he was.
Yeah.
He was affiliated with Barnet Cancer, I think.
Yeah.
From what Wayne tells me. Yeah. Really interesting story.
Hang on, we got to do a YouTube bit. Barnet Council, such an honest council.
Yes. I can safely say every experience I've had with them has been completely unique.
Yeah. Very has been. Right, we got here Patchy Hatchy, North Wales. Postman Cat came out of Pontypridd rather. I'm sure he's deep south as a postman goes. Yeah, and you notice he doesn't use his signals. I think Postman Pat was an ex-taxi driver, because you notice when he's going along, he turns left, suddenly no indication at all. So because that was in Viz magazine, wasn't it? Top tip of the week: taxi drivers, why don't you use your indicators? Then people know where you're going.
Brilliant, Viz. It was an absolute work of genius, Viz. Work of genius.
My favourite it was. Cat Holly, I think the have infiltrated everywhere. Yes, the psychopath element of them have. Yes, I think so. I think you work out what that is, but we're talking about the psychopath element. That's the thing, not the innocent people. Richard
Alejandro.
You can pronounce it. Oh, and I forgot. We in Leicester found King Richard III. Sorry.
Yes.
In a social
in a car park.
Oh, poor
That's
soul.
What
place to be buried? And in the
stabbed up the bottom, apparently, as well.
Really?
Yeah. That's how they identified his. They looked at his pelvis, and it had impact marks from a blade on it, and that is what they did to humiliate him. I mean, they did he wasn't dead when they started ripping him to pieces, apparently. So what they did to humiliate him was shove swords up his bottom.
Well, in those days they did that, but now they're more subtle about it, aren't they? That type of stuff. Yeah. But it's been a hard day's night. Was that Richard III?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Synchronicity is the belief that coincidence is not coincidence. Rather, it's a message that one is being given. I'll email you tonight, Chris. Oh, look at that tomorrow
That'd be
morning.
interesting, Wayne. Actually,
That'd
very
be
interesting
interesting.
indeed.
But because I generally get my beauty sleep after the show.
Mm.
Now, this is an interesting one. Ancient Ruby said all our police forces will be armed by 2025, 26. I remember in the
Easily.
was it in the early 90s or late 80s? The first time I saw an armed police, it really shook me. And that was in London near, where was it now? It was near Tower Bridge. And there they were with the old, stab jackets on and it was like a cultural shock to me because he was always proud that the police were never armed, and we sort of, huh?
Yeah.
Now it says here, Dan MC says, does that mean cops should be to military tribunals for their crimes? That's interesting.
No, well, they're civilian. They don't serve as part of the military, so they can't be really.
And also, they can't.
Good idea, though.
They can't actually the police can't carry their rank on after they retire. Where an army, they can. So someone that's an officer who can be reverted or major, major whoever, they can still carry their rank on afterwards. But a police officer can't. They can be a sergeant or what is it? I don't know what the top one is in the police. And he can't carry his rank on once he's retired. And personally, I couldn't give a shit.
I lived with a girl for quite a while, actually, for about 3 years. And her father was a major in the Light Dragoons. And the Light Dragoons were one of the people that took part in the charge of the Light Brigade. And I had to call him Major. Yeah, so he lived down in Wiltshire, or in a place called Codford St Mary in Wiltshire. And lovely people, by the way. Her mother, God rest her soul, German lady, her voice was deeper than her husband's. So whenever I would call when she was at home at the weekend, and I wanted to give her a call, I would actually say, "Hi, this is Robert. Hello. Can I speak to Catherine, Major? This is his wife." She sounded like Schwarzenegger. She had a lovely woman, though. She was so nice. I cut up when she passed away. She had a really deep voice, but she was a lovely, lovely lady. Really nice lady. Nice lady. But the father, I mean, he worked for the UN, and I'm pretty sure he did some secret squirrel stuff in Northern Ireland as well when he was stationed out there.
Really?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure because he had those mirrors on a stick that you look under your car with. He had one of those. So at some point he was having to check under his automobile for a dodgy parcels from the Emerald Isle. Maybe you never know.
You never know.
I'm pretty sure he carried a pistol at some point as well, because they say these people, once they get to a certain echelon, never retire.
Yes,
they just literally go and do some. Yeah, they just go and do something else. He was a smart guy as well. Spoke about 3 languages. He went to. He was in the same class in Sandhurst, at Sandhurst, as Colonel H. Jones from the Power Regiment that died at Goose Green.
Really?
He was his classmate. Yeah, and he went to rugby school, I think, and he sent his son there as well. He sent his son afterwards, whose name is also Robert, by the way. His son's name is Robert. But interesting.
Well, listeners or viewers don't know this. I've been to Sandhurst. I drove through there on the way to Cornwall. I think I stopped off a cafe in Sandhurst.
Yeah,
that sounds bullshitty, doesn't it? I've been to Sandhurst, just to go to Fred's Cafe and have a cup of tea and drive on, But
shame you didn't drop in on Chris at the time. That would have been great. Chris the gardener, have a nice bit of lasagna from his and stuff from the salad from his garden. Yeah.
Now, hang on, no, Sandhurst is down in Surrey, I think. Isn't it?
I think it is south. It is south west. I think.
This is Sandhurst.
Yes, Sandhurst. Yeah.
Robert Thane said the Welsh can have Telford back. Yes, and they can also have Waltham Cross as well. They're welcome to it. So Wales, if you Waltham Cross,
Mm.
20-mile-an-hour zone round. I couldn't give a shit really, you know. So there we go. So
Mm.
that's it. So now where we got uh, now it says here, if we do not, this is Ancient Ruby, if we do not get on, frequencies bounce off. But I've
She's
actually,
right.
yes, but I've also been drained by psychic vampires, and it sometimes
Yes.
took me about 3 days to get over it. You're
Mm.
absolutely exhausted, you know.
Yeah.
Now it's here. Ancient Ruby says my IQ is 147.
That's just when she's sleeping as well.
That's when she's sleeping. That's right. And in here at
Yeah,
the moment, it's I thought it was about 9:55 here, isn't it? So there we go.
yeah.
Because you see, when they were handing out brains, I thought they said trains, and I missed mine. So there we go.
Mm.
Bob
Mm.
Hollyoak, my word, you're normally the first one. Hi all. He's late this evening. All week.
Hi, Bob.
Note from parents. My word, he's 2 hours late. He's normally up
I
at
think he
half
was
past
lying.
seven, isn't
He was lying in deep cover. Deep cover.
he? He has. He has,
By
yeah.
the way, Chris, just to thank Kat. Kat, thanks for giving me the name of that journalist, Daphne Galicia. So I'll have a little look at that after the show. Thank you very much, Kat. It's very kind.
That's interesting. Now it says here, we've got here, thank you, Cats. Well, hereditors get fucked. It's in the lap of the gods. That's what my granddad used to say. It's in the lap of the gods. Yes, that's now
Interesting.
that's interesting. Now, hang on, we've got DJ Philipped. I did a 2-hour online 60s and 70s pop radio show where I re-sampled all the tracks from 440 hertz to 432 hertz. A lot of work, but the
Thanks,
tracks seem to
DJ. It
sound
is 432, not
a lot more
332.
mellow.
Yeah.
Just subscribed. Good show. Thanks, mate. Much appreciated. Yes, we need subscribers. That's very good. And also, you might think of going on the old Telegram chat. We've got little members there.
Yeah.
They're very friendly.
Can I ask DJ to put a link to his radio show in the chat, please? Because I'd like to listen to that.
Yeah, that's
I'd love to listen
yes,
to that. Yeah.
Yes, please. Put by all means, put it down in chat. Put it down in the comments if you like. Be able to see it. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, after the show, or both, maybe even. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for subscribing as well. Much appreciated. Now we got here. I don't see myself. This is Urban Fox. Who he doesn't know it. We won't tell him, Robert, that he's going to come on the show again. But shh, don't tell him because it'll be a surprise for him.
Yeah.
I don't see myself as being saved from these organisations. I learned things I could never have learned elsewhere, including metaphysical and spiritual laws and personal development type secrets. Excellent. That's interesting.
But that doesn't mean he wasn't saved. It doesn't mean just because you've learned something from somebody doesn't mean you weren't saved. I think the consequences, it might not have been. I mean, it's not a racing certainty that the consequences could have been dire. But I mean, look at what happened to the chap that he was affiliated with. I mean, he went a different path to what Wayne would have done. But I don't think that necessarily means you weren't saved, right?
Yes, and as you just mentioned, yeah, that's right. Cat Holly is Lady Journalist Daphne
Galizia.
And that as well,
Galizia.
and her as well. Galizia. You're better at this than I am. Now it says here, I live next to rugby school,
Really?
2 miles away.
Jesus.
Yes. Oh well.
I would love to have a chat with Bob about that place, I tell you.
Now it says now let's have a look down. And she just said she's got a higher IQ when she sleeps. Now, my education on earth was poor and re-educated from others you all never seem to see. So far, they are spot on and I learn well. Well, let's put it this way. We're all stupid to what we don't know. For example, if we had a show about quantum physics, the only thing I know about quantum physics is the word quantum physics, or 2 words rather. I know nothing about it. No, nothing.
Yeah.
So we would sound very stupid in front of a load of quantum physicists saying, see,
Yeah,
yeah.
precisely. Yeah.
So we are all cut out for all different things. And this is why I say what is happening in the world today, we're all cut out in different ways. I'm not the type of person to walk around with a protest, sort of marching around with placards and things like that. No, but
Pointless exercise.
that's right. To me, we
Yeah.
got to laugh at them, and we got to, because the worst thing they hate is laughter, because psychopaths don't have a sense of humor. They don't understand human laughter. I mean, can you imagine can you just imagine it? Everybody going when Klaus is talking at the World WEF. Can you imagine if we all just laughed and jeered at him, and I mean,
or slow hand captain. Slow hand cap.
Yes.
Yeah, just slow hand.
Do you know what they did? Do you know what they did in POW camps during World War II? And most of the Jews didn't understand what it was. They used to whistle the Laurel and Hardy tune when a big wig came along. So he'd get out of his car and go, how can they stop it? And everybody's standing laughing. It got stuff laughing, because they didn't understand. So
that's interesting.
Hey! It's late this evening, isn't it?
It's getting later and later. It's getting later and later. Interesting thing about German concentration camps.
Yeah.
Eri Neve, who was also a guard at, he guarded Goring. He was a lawyer as well. He actually served in Thatcher's cabinet. Do you remember they put the bomb under his car and blew his legs off and he died? Do you remember that? He actually escaped from Colditz.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Really interesting chap. Really interesting guy.
But do you know, this is something that not many people realise, there were concentration camps in the United Kingdom during World War One.
You mentioned this. Yeah, you mentioned this last week, didn't you? Yeah.
And one of the most famous and the tallest ones was Alexandra Palace in North London.
Ali Pali, yeah. Ali Pali. Just up the road from where we used to live.
That's right. Yeah. And it was actually called a concentration camp. And there were Germans in there who couldn't even speak German. They were second and third generation. But because they had a surname like Schmidt or whatever, or Stein, they were put in the concentration camp. The women weren't, and the children weren't, but only the men. So that's another story. Anyway, we come up to our time. It's gone quick this evening. Hey, I really enjoyed it. And this Thursday, kicking and screaming, we're going to have Chris the gardener, who might not necessarily be talking about gardening, might be talking about another subject. So stay tuned. And also look out on BitChute for the show, which I recorded on last Friday. I've been too bleeding lazy. Too overworked to put it on BitChute yet. So, well, at least I'm being honest, isn't I?
Oh, it is what it is. It is what it is.
I've been overworked, seriously. And we'll be back next Thursday, same time, same place. And have you got anything to say, Robert, before we sign off?
No, not really. I mean, I just everybody just keep on doing what you're doing. I mean, everybody does their tiny little bit, but I use the analogy of a swarm of hornets and wasps. They can't swat us all.
Correct. And one hornet can do very little, but in a swarm, bloody hell, I can certainly do some damage.
There you go.
So there we are. Thank you very much, Robert, for joining us tonight. Thank you, everybody in chat. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And same time, same place, Thursday, 8 o'clock. And remember, whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh. And good night.